सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि Om. Welcome back, friends. It's wonderful to see you again. Beneath all this noise of the world and the chatter of the mind, there is a quiet voice that already knows, and it's been waiting to be heard, waiting for you to listen. We seem to have come so far in this evolution. Our lives are more connected, more efficient, more advanced than before. We've built systems, we've scaled our careers, we've surrounded ourselves with technology and the promise to make everything easier. In fact, artificial intelligence can predict, optimize, and respond in milliseconds, and yet something essential has gone quiet. In all this progress, we've drifted away from that one voice that has guided us for generations, our intuitive wisdom, that quiet knowing, that organic, not artificial intelligence, that organic intelligence that once helped us navigate life with clarity and grace. We used to be able to just look at the stars, follow the stars, use your intuitive wisdom, and figure out your way. But now with maps coming up, we've just forgotten how to stay connected with that intuitive voice to let us guide us. Yes, we are smart. We are high achievers. We have access to more information than any other generation before us. But in spite of all this brilliance, why do we still struggle to hear our own inner truth? That's because this mind, which is fast, noisy, and relentless, has taken away the driver's seat. And while that mind is very brilliant, yes, it is extremely brilliant at processing thoughts, it was never meant to be in the driver's seat, to lead our lives. So when we let the mind override our deeper knowing, we act very impulsively. Instead of acting through our insights, we act through impulses. We confuse thought with what should have been the truth. We mistake that noise for what should have been the wisdom. And this is a classic case of mistaken identity, because we start identifying with this mind and its confusion rather than relying on the clarity of the soul. So it's time to return, time to remember, time to listen again. But this is an art of listening, for which we first have to declutter our inner equipment, which is mainly going to be focused on the mind. In today's session, we will explore 3 simple shifts. I'm calling it simple, though it took me I've been practicing this for 25-30 years. But this shift to go towards introspection, to go towards inward journey, not forcing yourself through, but creating that space for that voice to be heard. So we're going to look at those 3 simple shifts, and I'm going to leave you with the ABCs of what you really should be looking for. Now, that inner voice is also called as intuitive wisdom. For us to listen to our intuitive wisdom, we must allow it to speak. It's always been speaking, but we've been sidelining it, silencing it, because we were letting it drive our lives. So now the shift is that we have to learn to sit with it, sit beside our thoughts, not inside our thoughts. We have to observe, but without attachment, and to just witness, but without judgment. So the mind will continue its dance. That's not going to stop. That's the function of the mind. It's going to swirl with memories, projections, fears, fantasies, everything that you could imagine of. So we're not going to mess with that, because that's the nature of the mind. What we're going to see is that you are not your mind. You are not those thoughts. You are not the dance that's going on in this head. You are the stillness beneath it. You are the screen on which this dance is projected. Now imagine if you've ever been in those big screen theaters where they would project, you just sit in the outdoors and they have this huge screen and they project the movie on the screen. If the screen also shook and there was movement on the screen, would you be able to see it clearly? Obviously not. You can see it clearly. You can see all the dance and the movements only when that screen is still. So how do you see this reflected in daily lives, right? We have a screen, but we get easily tossed around when something happens to us, and it's nothing fancy. All it could be is as simple as somebody rejects your idea. Somebody disapproves, maybe a significant person disapproves something you did. Maybe you think you failed in life. Maybe you missed that promotion that you've been eyeing for so long. So we cling so hard to the idea of what we think our life should be. And when we see that the life doesn't turn out the way we expected it, the way our expectations were not met, we go in a downward spiral really fast and come down crashing. But you know what? You can break that cycle. Stop identifying with every thought, every emotion, every reaction that happens, every unmet expectation. When you stop identifying with those thoughts or situations, something begins to shift and you begin to reclaim your peace. You stop, I would say, outsourcing your happiness to the Vyakti, Vastu, Paristiti, as we call it. You've outsourced your happiness to those things, those people, those situations, and just stop renting it out. Your joy is yours, not of the things to control. So you can control your joys. Don't let other things control it. This kind of an attitude is not indifference. This is wisdom. When you realize that the external situations, people, places, things are just that. They are external. They cannot enter your mind and disturb your inner peace. You alone are responsible for that disturbance. So when the external situation doesn't match with what your internal expectations are, you have a choice to make. Either you accept things as is, or you can continue to hold on to your expectations. When you accept those, in the acceptance situation, whether it's a praise or an insult or anything, ups and downs that happen in life, they can no longer shatter you. The wins, the losses, they don't define you. Those social media likes or trolls, they don't crush you anymore. Those discomforts, those unfairness, they don't even matter anymore. We just accept the universe's plan and we learn to trust the process. We learn to embrace the changes, those broken dreams, the fading health, dysfunctional relationships, you name it. It's all a part of the process. It's not that we don't care, but rather we slow down the speed of those knee-jerk initial reactions of that hurt, the bitterness, the misery that comes about, and we rise up all above those poisonous fumes. And when you rise above those fumes, you get clarity in understanding that this hurt that you felt was in fact a self-inflicted wound, because your resistance or insistence that apology which you never received and you probably will never get has been keeping you a prisoner of your own emotions. It's that wisdom that says, I can care deeply, but I don't have to cling to my expectations. I can love fully, but I don't have to lose myself in it. I can respond with clarity, not with reactivity. So with those emotional reactions, when you stop those emotional reactions, that's a sign of emotional maturity. You conserve a lot of mental energy that can now be channelized for creating space for that growth that we said. Because you no longer attach yourself with the externalities. You detach and you reclaim your peace, joy, happiness, everything that has been in that bundled up mess. So think of the screen again, right? Let's say it was a mirror. When you look in the mirror, you don't adjust the scars. You don't adjust anything. The mirror simply reflects what is. Mirror is unchanged. Similarly, you are the reflective medium on which everything is reflected. Here's your invitation. Reflect life as is, without needing it to be picture perfect. Because every time you demand perfection from the world, you're going to meet with disappointment and you will fracture your own peace. All those mistreatments, the disrespectful behaviors, the toxicity, everything, all those negativities, they're really a reflection of the trauma other people are carrying. It has nothing to do with you. Let that set in. It's their reflection that they have been carrying. They're simply trying to dump it on you. You can't control their behaviors. So instead of being controlled by them, meaning getting triggered every single time, you just stop trying to change those behaviors. I love that ad, which Progressive Insurance, by the way, they are not paying me for this, but Progressive Insurance has the ad that comes up frequently during the football season, that you're not a mechanic. It's not your job to fix everyone's broken state. You just draw clear boundaries so that your inner peace and stability is not jeopardized. The minute you do that, you will see your alignment begins to shift. Previously, it was aligned to those externalities, the people, places, things, outcomes, situations. But now you align with that core values. You choose what thoughts, emotions, situations your mind will entertain. Mind will have those thoughts, but you can sort of like fish for those thoughts, if you would. Now, take something as simple as a flight delay. In my recent travel adventures, 2 of the 3 segments had airport shutdowns after we boarded the flights. We were about to take off and something happened. One time it was a technical issue where the radar system had a malfunction, and even rebooting did not help it. The air traffic controllers were not able to do their daily job. So the complete airport was completely shut down. Flights could not land and flights could not take off. And the other instance was we were about to take off in Phoenix, and Phoenix had flash floods. Who's even heard of flash floods in Phoenix? But there was nothing we could do. We were 5 minutes away from takeoff, right? Everything was just completely shut down, nothing taking off, nothing landing in. So you have options. I saw people getting upset, getting angry, getting agitated, cussing, screaming, yelling. But what did that do, right? The schedule is completely out of your hands, but your response is in your hands. Your peace doesn't come from changing what's on the outside, but it comes from being at peace from the inside, right? Just accept it. You're not playing the victim card mentality anymore. You are now the calm in the storm. The fear of like, oh my gosh, now what's going to happen no longer paralyzes you because you are confident in handling whatever comes your way. Acceptance is not a resignation. It's the beginning of your transformation. And you cannot change something that you haven't accepted. You cannot heal something that you're still denying. You cannot evolve from something that you refuse to see. So start where you are. Accept, in fact, embrace your imperfections, your mistakes, your shadows, not to stay stuck in them, but to meet them with full awareness. Because only from that place of truth can you begin to rise. And that ABC, that A was the awareness. Just be aware that you are not your thoughts. So you detach from there, and that's the first shift. You completely detach from all of that externalities and that internal chatter, all the thoughts, emotions, situations, what have you, whatever is going on. Mind will continue its function. It will continue to dance. It will continue to do what it is. Mind is just used to being attached to something. So it's like a child. You have to provide something to the mind for it to settle down. We were once at a basketball game. My son was 6 years old, so probably first graders. And you know how parents want to cheer their children, go, 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 Billy, go. Billy just stood in the middle of he had the basketball in his hand, and his parents were cheering him on from the sideline for him to go make the basket. He just stopped right in the middle of the basketball court and said, go where, mama? So you have to give your mind something. Okay, you've detached yourself. Now reattach it to something different. So here's where the second shift comes. Let it attach itself to being an observer, not the absorber. Reattach yourself to that state of awareness. It's a gentle wake-up call, because while life just throws many experiences our way, some may be pleasant, some may be unpleasant, you don't have to take in everything. You don't have to absorb everything. You don't have to carry what isn't yours. You don't have to become what others project on you. I love this quote that is said very often. You can't keep getting mad at people for sucking the life out of you if you keep giving them the straw. Stop giving that straw. So observe, not absorb. That's a subtle shift, but it changes everything. When people try to dump their negativities on you, it may feel like you're holding the burning embers of somebody else's anger. They're just spreading fire because that's a reflection on them. But you have a choice. You stop carrying it and stop getting burned. That's as simple as that. You don't, just because they dump on you doesn't mean you have to carry it. So when you stop internalizing every criticism, every expectation, every emotional storm, you begin to reclaim your peace. So this is how you train your mind to become like a still lake. Remember that still, the curtain that we said on which everything is projected? It has to be still. So if you consider your mind to be a still lake, like the Manasarovar, yes, things will fall in the lake, stones will come across, leaves will fall, storms will happen. It will hit it on the surface, but beneath that surface, the lake will always return to its stillness. If the lake can do it, so can you. You are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are the awareness behind them. You are the space on which that is being reflected. So realizing that you are not your thoughts itself is a life-changing discovery. It's a pivotal moment in every person's spiritual journey. So we detached from the fleeting contents of the mind body, but you reattach to your identity. Your identity is not with these externalities, but your identity is with that silent observer. That's that awareness that you want to reclaim. So you step back from your thoughts and emotions and you watch them and you just observe them without any judgment. Just like you'd watch a movie unfold on the screen, you can disidentify from that constant stream of thoughts, those objects moving on the screen, and that gives you a greater sense of presence and freedom. That silent observer simply remains calm and steady, no matter how loud or chaotic the world becomes. That awareness is your true nature. That awareness is you. That's your freedom. Because once you begin to see every thought, every emotion, every situation, everything as a passing cloud, it's not permanent. It's just passing somewhere in the cloud. It's not personal either. So you stop running after them And you stop shrinking in fear. You stop letting them steer your choices, and you return back to that stillness beneath it. This is not weakness. This is mastery. In the Bhagavad Gita, this is referred to as mental equanimity. It is, the Sanskrit word for that is called titiksha. And this spiritual strength helps us stay steady throughout life's ups and downs, throughout all their dualities. And those who master the minds, they rise, the quote, the Bhagavad Gita shloka says, they rise above the dualities of heat and cold, joys and sorrows, honor and dishonors. It doesn't matter anymore, because these yogis, they remain peaceful and steadfast because of their devotion. And Sri Krishna also teaches us that this true stability comes from developing that inner resilience rather than trying to control the external situations. Just control your inner equipment. And the most powerful person is not the one who controls others, is the one who has learned to control themselves. So the next time the world throws something at you, pause. You don't have to react. Just watch it, breathe through it, let the breath bring you back, grounded in, rooted in your awareness. And remember that even storms finally run out of rain. So however challenging or even conducive situations may be, even those situations are simply temporary. This too shall pass. So we're not here to carry everyone's energy. We are here to stand on your own energy. You can choose, you can choose either the energy of the worries and the fears and the anxieties, or you have options. You have options of energies that can be channelized for creating, for manifesting, healing, growing, glowing, or simply just being joyous. Bring that energy to the table. Show up with that energy. And the most magnetic thing on this earth is loving your own energy. Your self-perception impacts the frequency at which you vibrate. And the frequency at which you vibrate is the situations that you attract. So love yourself, be confident in your talents and the way you express them. Love the reflection you see in the mirror. May your energy just raise the whole frequency of this universe. So we've gone through 2 shifts. We detached from the externalities and our thoughts, emotions, whatever it was. And then we reattached ourselves to that core of our being, the awareness or the silent observer. Now here comes the third and the most powerful shift, the power of the pause. You've probably heard this. Between a stimulus and a response, there is space. In that space is our power to choose our response. And in that response lies growth and freedom. This is a space we so often forget. Freedom comes from that conscious choice, because after that pause, it just breaks the speed of thoughts that are being hurled at you, gives you some space to think rationally and consciously. And instead of reacting, you now start responding. You choose how to act. You're not doing it through impulses anymore, but it is through intentional pauses. And that allows room for reflection, for growth, and a response that's more aligned with your values, your core values, your non-negotiables. You're not being dictated by the immediate external event that happened. And these 3 shifts that we just talked about, these are not random. These are a path, and these are stepping stones to get towards those shifts. Without detaching, you cannot reattach. Without reattaching, you cannot pause. So they come, they follow. It's a prerequisite for all the 3 steps. So in the first shift, I'm going to repeat this multiple times till it just sinks in. In the first shift, you detached from this mind's wild currents that were just going on. You stopped identifying with your thoughts, emotions, situations, people, places, everything. and you loosened the grip of that illusion, the mistaken belief that you were those things that were going on in your mind. Then in the second shift, you told your mind to reattach and anchor itself to being the silent observer. The mind was still active. The world still went on. Everything was still going on. But now you were being a witness. And that witness, that spaciousness that you created, it was at steady awareness. It's not separate from you. It is you. That's the doorway to your true nature, your awareness, consciousness that leads you to bliss. Satchidananda Swarup. It's just beautiful to be in that mind state. Now, when you detach and reattach, you still have few choices, because your third step of that pause can be modified, and the pause can be used to whatever your soul needs the most today. It's not a one solution fits all. This reattaching to the self is definitely a universal phenomenon. Regardless of your belief, regardless of your faith, regardless of your religion, whether you know it or not, it's like putting your hand in the socket. You are going to get electrified, right? You will experience that electricity. So when you attach yourself to being that silent observer, you've already attached yourself to the true core inner nature and have created that space. Now, what do you do with all of the space that you just created? You have many, 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 many choices. For example, detach, reattach, and you can just relax. If your nervous system needed some soothing, calming down the nerves, you let go of things that were bothering you, you return back to the self, and you just rest in awareness. There is nothing else needed to be done. Sometimes you create that space and you want to reflect. So you detach, reattach, reflect. Step back, tune in, and now you choose with clarity. So you reflect, what am I going to choose as my next step? Right? That's how you dispatch. Maybe your energy needs a certain direction. You've got so much momentum. Now, how do I use all of this energy? So you detach, reattach, dispatch. You let go. You've realigned yourself to that silent observer. Now you respond with intention. And last but not the least, sometimes you detach, you reattach, and your response needs to match your wisdom. That intuitive wisdom that's already been telling you what to do. It's time to take action. So you could match, right? I mean, so many possibilities. This is your practice, your pause, your power. Let it meet you where you are. Because in that moment of inner connection, something quietly and profoundly is unfolding. You realize there's nothing more to chase, nothing more to fix. You don't have to perform. You don't have to prove. You simply return back to the center. That self, which is the silent witness. Rest there. You're whole. You're complete. You're enough. You are untouched by the noise around you. The world will still continue its swirl of opinions, arguments, expectations. All of that will still continue. I'm not saying that that's going to stop. But when you are anchored in your true nature, that of awareness, consciousness, and bliss, that ABC, nothing can touch you. You are no longer being tossed around and just spiraling out with the waves. You become the stillness that supports those waves. Think of the mortar and pestle, right? The thing that we use for the crushing those grains. The grains that are scattered around the edges are easily crushed. But those that are nestled near the center, the pestle, they remain untouched because they're protected by the proximity. So life is similarly much the same way. When we drift to the edges of our awareness, this is the center is where you are, the vortex of that awareness. It's most concentrated over here. But when you drift away from it and move outside, move towards those external situations, you become vulnerable to be crushed by those circumstances very, very easily. But when you remain steadfast in your, close to your own inner core, you become resilient. You're not hardened, but you're held. You're not reactive, but you're rooted in that awareness of the self. So return back home, return back to your center. You are the homecoming king or queen, whoever you may be. Reattach yourself to the self. Because the closer you are to that truth, the less probability that life will shake you. And from that place of stillness, you don't just survive, you rise. The world will continue. Those chaotic arguments, those opinions, endless chatter, the honking. I mean, everything still continues, but it no longer draws you in. You are the calm in that chaos. You will understand, not my monkey, not my drama. So your silence isn't weakness, it's power. Because when you stop reacting, you stop feeding the fire. And eventually, if you stop adding fuel to the fire loses its potency and eventually dies down. The dramas fade and peace just returns. This, my dear friends, is the beginning of mastery, not by controlling the world, but by no longer being controlled by all of those externalities. So in each of these three shifts, we saw how it moves us closer to the self, which has always been there. The self has always been observing without judgment. Now you are just witnessing the observer watching it. It's a game you start playing. And that you do it without being drowned. You start loving without just clinging, and you start responding without reacting. Self is not a concept. Self is your essence. It's the stillness beneath your thoughts, the clarity beneath your emotion, and the joys that doesn't depend on circumstances. ABC, awareness, consciousness, bliss. You are that Satchidananda Swarup. This is who you are. And every time you detach, reattach, and pause, you are one step closer to returning home. If this episode resonates with you, please like or follow the channel. Share it with someone else who may benefit. Leave me a comment or send me an email at maneesha@myyatra.vip. May your yatra also be equally quick and effortless in returning you home. Let's close with the closing prayers. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet, Asato Ma Satkamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amrutam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. May peace prevail. Thank you.